I know I don't sew hats, but my hair looks like crap, so you only get this much of it. And it's also very warm in my room, so it's kind of killing me a little bit. Hey, so as you can see by the title, I just had my first appointment at the NHS gender clinic. In fact, I kind of had 2 appointments, which I'll explain in a minute, but basically they fucked up and my letter was misprinted, so I ended up going a week early. My appointment wasn't until next week, but I did get to see somebody. So I have the letter here and there's some writing on the back, which again I will explain. But on the letter it says that my appointment was on the 2nd of November 2017 at 2:30. But when I turned up and was waiting then, they asked to see my letter, I showed it to the woman, she said there was some sort of problem, she said that I should have rang up to confirm that I was attending an appointment, which I didn't know. I think it probably does say it on the letter, but I got it a while ago and I forgot. But I was just kind of like, I thought you only rang up to say that you couldn't attend an appointment and rearrange it. So I was like, have I like now missed the appointment? Are you not giving me the appointment because I've not rang up? And I thought, oh no, I fucked up. I've waited like over a year to get this appointment, over a year and a half, and I was kind of freaking out a little bit. My mum and dad were trying to like chill me out. But then after a little while, some other woman come back with my letter in her hand and said, I'm really sorry about this. This is completely none of your fault. This is completely on our part. We've misprinted your letter. So you do have your appointment, but it's next Thursday, exact same time. They've just put the date a week early. So it's actually on the 9th and not on the 2nd. He said, but obviously you've come all this way. You don't want, you know, to waste your time. You come in here and have to just go home. So you can see our nurse, and like pointing over to this woman. I can't remember what her name was. I'm really bad at names. But basically we went to some room and spoke to her for a little bit. She just kind of went over what was going to happen, time periods, that sort of thing. We discussed the private gender clinic and the process of that. We discussed GPs and how they're really, really shit at prescribing hormones and that they normally have to fight against them, and private clinics tend to be worse, and just a load of different things. It was actually really informative and really nice. It put my mind at ease a little bit, and it was better than just going there being told, well, we've misprinted a letter, so go home and come back next week, which is what all this writing is. She was going on about time periods of how long the assessments take, that sort of thing, when you should expect at what time period for these things to happen and these things to happen, and I wanted to remember that, but I knew I'd forget, so I asked her to write it down. So she said it normally takes about 3 to 6 months, I'm just checking that's right, yeah, 3 to 6 months to carry assessments. That's just sort of the assessment period. That's in general. Again, waiting times can differ and that sort of thing. And there is probably going to be delays over Christmas and New Year because there's less staff coming on. Most of the nurses and stuff have to work that period, and some of the consultants apparently don't work to the same standard, so they just take it off. So obviously having this appointment in November, there's probably going to be a few week delays, and it does take them a little bit to catch up, so it might be longer than 3 to 6 months, but they don't know. It's just basically based on when people have got time and what happens there and then. She said it could take up to 4 appointments in the assessment period, but it's normally like 2 to 3, and there's normally 2 to 3 months between each appointment. And then after the assessment period, you get assessed by like 2 different doctors. So the appointment that I actually had yesterday, from when I'm filming this, was one of the doctors, and then I get assessed by another doctor who just asked the exact same questions or the exact same thing, and then I go back to the other doctor to talk about other things. Yeah, that's the gist of it. But yeah, so after the assessment period, and it's gone to like a board of people who will discuss it and be like, oh yes, he seems to not like his chest and he seems to not like his other stuff. We think that he has gender dysphoria, and actually they have to diagnose you with 2 things. The second one I really don't like. I thought this was a completely outdated term, but it's something that they do say they still legally have to, you know, diagnose you with in order to get things. It's just the way that things work. So you have to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria and transsexualism. Yeah, I really don't like that term. But once you're diagnosed, they go on to talking about treatment, which for most people would be HRT straight away, and would be the same for me. So I'm assuming with treatment, I can't remember, she just wrote down the general time and a thing so I could remember and sort of use my own memory a little bit. I'd assume they just go through all the different changes that can happen, all the different side effects, and all the different things that could possibly happen, what you need to do, that kind of thing, and get some bloods probably, and then prescribe it. I think you have to go to your GP, they can reject it, and she did say Doncaster is one of the worst places for rejecting people, which, lucky me, I live here. If there is a problem with a GP, to ring her straight back, she'll get straight on it and she'll push it through. And if they do completely refuse, they treat you in clinic at Sheffield, which will be a ball ache to have to keep going there to get things done, but just going to get things done, just going to get things done. And then she said, after 4 months of being on treatment, you'll see the nurse and discuss chest surgery, getting the chesticles chopped off. Then after 6 months you get a medic review, assuming that's just general like blood tests, seeing how things are going, discussing with you how you feel and that kind of thing, just like a general appointment. 9 months you'll have another appointment with the nurse, and 12 months you'll have another appointment with the medic. Don't know what happens after that, but she just said to have that general time frame, and it means that if once things are going and it gets to that time frame or a little bit past that time frame, you know that it should have happened around then. You ring up and find out what's happening, which is really good. I'm glad I've got it written down, and I now also have it on my computer so that I can refer back to that. But yeah, so that was basically the first appointment. It wasn't a first appointment, that was when I first turned up and didn't get the appointment. So that was when I spoke to the nurse, and then I had my proper first appointment yesterday with, what's the guy's name? Alexander Pavlovic. So I had my appointment with Alexander yesterday, which actually went really, really well. I wasn't exactly nervous. I think I was more excited than nervous just for the fact that I was actually there and going to speak to somebody. But Mum and Dad were there, they come in the room with me. They always come to appointments with me anyway, and this was kind of a really important one. And obviously I knew that he was going to ask a lot of questions, and I expected that they'd be a lot similar to the ones that I got asked when I got referred by the doctor that referred me to the clinic. And they were pretty similar. And actually, I think the questions that Alexander at the gender clinic asked were probably less invasive, less in-depth than the ones that I got asked upon referral, which is strange. To me, it felt like it should have been the other way around, but I'm not complaining, and it was quite relaxed. One thing that I will say that I didn't enjoy, but it was very brief, and it wasn't a big deal, but it did make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, was the way that he referred to things. Obviously I expect that doctors and consultants and that sort of thing will use medical terms, but mainly just because he said it for the monthlies, he said like menstruation, which I don't mind so much. It's kind of the P word that makes me feel a little bit, for me personally. But he also referred to my chest as, I'm gonna type it there because I really don't want to say it, it's just gonna make me feel bleh. But yeah, so he said that about 3 times, 2-3 times, and it made me feel quite uncomfortable. I did say to him on the last time they said it, I went to answer the question and went, oh, by the way, can we not refer to my chest that way? It just makes me feel uncomfortable, it just say chest, you know? And he was like, okay, yeah, sorry about that. And then we just carried on. So that was fine. It did make me feel a bit uncomfortable. I feel like, especially in gender services, they should be a bit more aware of how they word things and maybe use more vague or general terms like chest. That could be anybody's chest, it just means chest. Whereas that feels very female oriented and it makes me feel really crap. My dysphoria just goes, hello, and it's not fun. But yeah, that was the only real, not even real, but the only issue that I had, and it was tiny. And it just made me feel a bit like, and then the rest was fine. It was really, really relaxed, they were really nice, and they asked me a bunch of questions, which I've written down the general topics, so that I can sort of just let you know what they asked, and then if you're going to go to a first appointment, you can kind of have a vague idea of what to expect them to ask you. So first of all, they asked me about my childhood. How were you when you were a child? What sort of things did you like to do? That sort of thing. And I think I answered sort of a little bit, but again, I was a kid. So Mum and Dad in the room actually really helped. Mum were like, yeah, you always like playing in mud, you always like to be doing stuff that your brother liked doing, you would not let me put you in dresses. It was a struggle, and my mum kind of weighed in on that. My dad didn't really say anything, and he did say afterwards, he was like, I was there as like support. I didn't really say anything. He kind of nodded along, said a few words every now and again, but he was just, I don't know, I guess I feel like he didn't really have loads to add. He just wanted to be there for support, and he said he enjoyed seeing it and knowing what were happening, all that kind of thing. So I think it's different being there than getting told about it. So Dad was a bit more silent. Mum did weigh in a lot more. She's good at appointments, I take her to everything because she just talks and she knows all the things that I forget, so I have a shit memory. So yeah, that really did help. So if you do go to an appointment and you have your parents there, or somebody at least that knew you when you were a kid who was a bit older, might help a little bit if you've got a crappy memory like me. So yeah, I think you were just asking because I tend to like quite stereotypically sort of masculine things, so I guess that's just kind of a thing to note down and go, oh yeah, when you were a kid you did like boy toys and stuff like that. He also asked about my sexuality. He asked about if I was, she said, when you go on testosterone, it was a bit weird how he phrased it. He did say, so when you go on testosterone, do you want your parents to be here for it? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And they were like, oh, so when you're on testosterone, sometimes your sexual orientation, sexual feelings, sexual fantasies, that sort of thing can change. And I was like, okay, I've heard of that. You know, a lot of people report that when they go on testosterone, things kind of change in that way for them. But I also don't know why he thought I'd want my parents to leave for that, because he didn't even go in depth. That was as much as like sex talk as he talked about. So he said, have you ever been in a relationship? And I was like, yeah, a couple of years ago, for a couple of years. that's it, that's the only real relationship that I've had. And he said, how would you sort of define sexuality? And I just went, meh, literally just went, eh. Said probably if I had to say like pansexual, just I know that I'm attracted to women. Don't know how I feel about men particularly. I think probably more romantic attraction and actually being attracted to the person's personality matters more to me than sexual attraction. But I don't know. Like, I don't really care as long as they're a decent person. Oh, okay, thanks laptop. As long as they're a decent person. It was like, yeah, cool. And that was basically the end of that. So I don't know why he thought that my mum and dad might want to leave. When he said testosterone, I thought he was going to start talking about like bottom growth and that sort of thing. Which then maybe I would have sent him away. Because that would have been a bit uncomfortable, but that was it. So, don't know. Maybe some people are just really squeamish about talking about anything in front of the parents. We're quite open. We probably share too much. And then he asked what I want from the clinic. So I just said, basically, start hormone replacement therapy, start testosterone as soon as possible, please. If you can give me it now, that'd be great. Top surgery for definite. Bottom surgery, I explained, as I've said on here before, right now I feel like I do want bottom surgery and I feel like it would benefit me, but also I know that right now I'm pre-T, pre-everything. So once I go on testosterone and once I have top surgery and I'm more comfortable with those things, my dysphoria changes, it's a lot less massive in general, and also growth from T and that sort of thing, that might help enough that I don't feel like it's necessary. I'm open to it changing. Right now I feel like I probably will, but that's sort of a fluid thing that we'll deal with when we get there. He also asked when I knew and sort of what signs and stuff. So I said, basically like I said in my coming out video, that I came out to a friend at 11, so I obviously definitely knew then. I think it was generally sort of puberty was the time that I felt really uncomfortable and I knew that there was something wrong. And went into a little bit about that, just sort of general little things. What I am covering next week in a video, how I knew I was trans, the like complete subject, as much as I can anyway, because you guys voted for it on Twitter, which should have been going up today instead of this one, but then I forgot that I'd just been to the gender clinic and I was obviously going to film an update, so I figured I'd delay that till next week and then do another poll after next week for the next week's video and start doing it like that afterwards. So that'll be next week. So if you want to find out more about that, I think I have to sit and like compile a list and try and really think back. If you want to see like a proper in-depth thing about how I knew I was trans and what signs I know of and that sort of thing, watch out for that. Make sure you're subscribed and click that bell. Click, not flick, but you know. He also asked about my family and if I had family support. He gestured over to my parents and was like, I assume you're supportive? And they were like, yeah, we're here. So, but yeah, I said, you know, my family are really supportive. The only people that struggle at all with name and pronouns is my nan and my grandma, but only really with pronouns. Name's fine, they never call me by my birth name. I said I think it's just an old people thing, they're getting bad memory, which my nan has said to me before, so that's fine. He also asked me about living as male, how long I have, if I'm living like full-time as male. Everybody knows me as Jade and as he, him, all that kind of thing. Got my name legally changed, been living as male since I came out. Everyone's referred to me as such. At work, I'm referred to as male. Get misgendered sometimes, which is a little bit like, But yeah, I'm known as male. I am just Jaden there. He also asked about how things were at school, if I was bullied or anything like that, and said I wasn't really. I was teased a little bit about the fact that I have Tourette's when it first developed and it was quite severe and I didn't know how to sort of suppress or control it or how to manage it very well. So some people take the piss a little bit for that, but that was basically it. Generally I'm not great socially, so I had my little tiny few friends and that was sort of my lot and that was fine with me. He also asked about any illnesses, so I talked about when I used to have seizures and how they've stopped now and how I'm managing it, previous medications that I've been on. He also asked right at the end very briefly about my mental health past, if I experienced anything, and I said, you know, anxiety, depression, generally. Also about past medications I've been on and how that affected that and how there's a bit of confusion with my mental health about a certain team that I was under and the fact that the reason I was on that team turned out to not actually be a thing. And we spoke about that briefly. Just warning as well, he did talk a little bit about suicide attempts and self-harm and that sort of thing. So he didn't ask for details as such, he just said, you know, anything as such. And I said, you know, yeah, suicide attempts a few times. He asked about the time frame and how, and he didn't really say much else about self-harm. I think he just self-harm. I don't really need to go too much into that. Luckily he didn't go too in depth, but just be warned that, you know, that probably will come up. That did come up right at the end of the appointment, which I feel like it would have been better in the middle to be drowned out a little bit, but shut up laptop. But yeah, he also talked about regarding mental health. He wanted to know that sort of thing because if I were to be put on hormone blockers to block out estrogen, which some people do when they start you on T, you also go on blockers, so it blocks out the estrogen, the testosterone gets through, and then they give you testosterone to raise your levels and stuff. But he said those can potentially, as a side effect, increase sort of mood swings and possibly sort of suicidal thoughts and that sort of thing. So we want to make sure that as I am now, how things are, which is fine. I don't think about that sort of thing anymore. It doesn't bring that on, but I can cope a lot better now, so I think that's fine. He also asked about voice training. He asked if I did voice train, and if that's something I would be interested in. The clinic does offer that, because testosterone isn't guaranteed to make your voice super, super deep. Obviously with trans women, estrogen doesn't do anything to your voice. It doesn't like elongate the vocal cords, it just testosterone shortens them. And that's the right way around. One or the other, basically. Testosterone does change the vocal cords, estrogen doesn't. So obviously that's offered for trans women, but also for trans men if you're uncomfortable with your voice pre-T, and if you are on testosterone and your voice hasn't dropped a great deal and maybe you feel like it would be better if you could deepen it a little bit, which I said I wasn't doing, I wasn't really interested in, because personally my voice is something that is like one of the only things I actually like, because it's quite deep. He also talked about, he asked if I smoked, which I said I did, unfortunately, and he did say that in order to start testosterone you would need to completely stop smoking, which I plan on doing sooner rather than later anyway. Don't really want to smoke, it's not a nice thing. So I'm going to basically get through what I've got, cut down as I go, and get an e-cig just so I've got something to help me to get along with that. But he said they also do that because testosterone thickens the blood, and with smoking as well, it makes the blood sticky or something like that, and it increases the chances of blood clots, which can cause lots of other problems. The smoking just increases those chances a lot. So they don't like to prescribe testosterone when anybody's smoking and will need to quit. That's my plan. I'm going to try and do that. And lastly, he kind of just talked about, this is not in order by the way, I just wrote them down as I remembered all the things, and I think this is all that he covered. But he also talked about dysphoria, what sort of dysphoria I felt about certain things if I bite my chest, which I said I do. He asked how long for, which I said appropriate amount of hours, no longer than 10 hours a day, work for 8 hours, so I put it on like just before I leave. Today I put it on a bit earlier because I'm filming this an hour before I have to leave for work. But I normally put it on like just before I leave for work and take it off when I get home. So I'm wearing it for like normally 8.5-ish hours a day. And I take as many days off binding as I can. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to wear my binder. There's no point being uncomfortable. I just wear a baggy hoodie and I'm good. He also asked about if I pack with anything, if I do anything for bottom dysphoria. And I said, yeah, I have prosthetics. And he's like, what kind of prosthetics? And I was like, prosthetic penises. No, I said Packers and STPs. Asked if I use a prosthetic for urination, so I gathered he didn't know what an STP was. I do sometimes, I don't use it all the time. It's only generally when my dysphoria is particularly bad. Otherwise, it's a bit too much effort, it takes a lot of practice, it's quicker just to sit down. But I do when my dysphoria is particularly bad. That's what I've written down. I think that's pretty much all we covered. Obviously, it went a bit into more detail about it, which made the appointment about half an hour long. Again, overall, I was actually really happy with the appointment. Bit of a ball ache that I got it a letter saying that it was a week early, so I went, but at least I got to see the nurse, and I'm very happy about that. I'm not mad, because I basically got 2 appointments in a week. I've been to the clinic twice. I'm a lot more comfortable there now, and I got this sort of little time frame thing, which has been very, very useful. It was strangely underwhelming, because you get built up for this, and you waited a year and a half, and you realise it's just another day, and you're just speaking to another doctor. But I am very happy to know that things are moving forward, and, oh, that's another thing that I didn't mention. She said it should be about March, April time when all the assessments are over. So that's the assessment period done, and that's when they look into prescribing testosterone. Which my appointment at the private clinic is in January, which I am still attending, is paid for, and could potentially get into testosterone after that first appointment. Although we did discuss that and said the GPs probably will not. Again, Doncaster is probably one of the worst places for it. GP probably won't prescribe it. So if they give me the all clear and a prescription for it and I have to take it to my doctors, they probably won't do it. And they can't continue at the NHS clinic. They have to prescribe it and do everything in order to administer it. So she did say I would have to continue attending private clinic appointments if my GP did refuse, which they probably will. But again, I think it's still worth it, and if I do need to go for more appointments, I know they're £150 per appointment after that. I've got a job now, I'm getting paid, I have more money than I've ever had in my life, my bank account's never looked better. Honestly, if I get on testosterone like January, and I'm not being seen until March, April time, 2-3 months, that's going to be like 1 to 2, maybe 3 appointments in that time, and I'll be on testosterone 2-3 months before that, so it'll give it a little bit of a boost. I think I'd feel better to get on testosterone as soon as possible. But yeah, so that's basically it. I hope I haven't rambled on for too long. Probably have. This is probably going to be a bitch to edit. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please give it a thumbs up anyway, just because I'm really excited and you should be excited, so just press the thumb Also, subscribe down below to see more from me. I upload a new video every single Monday. Also, hit that bell button to be notified when I do upload a new video. And if you want to, you can follow me on social media, all on the screen now. It's all Jay's Journey FTM. And I am doing the Twitter polls for the videos again. I think I'm going to do it like pretty much every week. There might be the odd week that I go, no, I want to upload this. Or this needs uploading, so I'll upload that. But pretty much every week I'm going to do a Twitter poll and let you decide what video will go up that week. So thanks for watching, come on my journey, and I'll see you in the next video.